start this conversation off, I think the best thing is that we go around and you give us a small snapshot of the industries in your country so that we all know where we stand at this point. Cvetan.
Hi everyone. So maybe we are the smallest. We have the smallest game community on this stage, like Bulgaria. We have a couple of successful examples from the past, and still we have big outsourcing studios like Ubisoft, Gameloft. Those are the biggest names you can find on the map. Also small independent studios like our or Access Software, the one that started with making web games, then moved to mobile, now expanding on other platforms, Steam, VR, and so on. There is one really interesting player, Hemimont Games, the guys behind the Tropico series. Really amazing stuff they do on the technical side, and they have now their own product called Victor Vran. Also, who deserve to be mentioned, small studios like maybe 30 studios as a small indies that make more casual titles. We have one big player in Sofia that is in adult gaming as well. And yeah, pretty much this is the whole gaming industry in Bulgaria. So as I said in the beginning, we're extremely small.
Hi everyone. If to speak about Ukraine, it's worth mentioning that it is a part of IT outsourcing market, first of all, and as a game development market, it is represented by several, I'd call it like genres maybe. So the first one, it's the outsourcing companies like Roommate and iLogos. Then these are the production and development centers of big companies like Ubisoft, Gameloft, Wargaming, Plarium, Playrix, and many, many others. Besides, we represent a very, very strong community of gambling and gambling-related games and applications. And the most successful developer in Ukraine who has the C-level management and the top management based in Ukraine as well, and the development center, it's Murka. And it is one of the most successful mobile casino developers in the world. And if to continue on gambling, we have offices of Playtech, Playtika, GSN, and probably every big gambling developer in the world in Ukraine. And from month to month, new offices appear and appear and appear. And if to speak about another,
yes, non-gambling.
And
it's
if to speak
interesting,
about
non-gambling,
well, it's mostly represented by small studios who develop their games but do not publish them themselves, and we're much influenced by Big Fish Games and their mobile development, which is boosting at the moment. And at least in Kyiv, they have 6 offices, 6 companies they cooperate with. So these are the main blocks of Ukrainian market, which is also much influenced by the CIS market. We are mainly part of this environment with Belarus and Russia, and there are many examples of very successful games and studios made by hands, and not only by hands, but the minds of the Russian people and the Belarusian people. And everyone knows Wargaming, everyone knows Playrix at the moment, and we can name Zep.Play and so on and so on and so forth. So I hope that Ukraine is going to join this CIS region successful stories.
Hi all. In Serbia, I think we have the newest game development community. I think everything started in 2009 and 2010 when we started and two more companies. And we as Eipix Entertainment and one more company, Mad Hat Games, started with Hopa Games, so we are doing that and trying to switch to other markets to make success on free-to-play premium games. And we have another big player who is the biggest by revenue. We are the biggest by number of employees, around 300. Nordeus, maybe you heard of that. They have a very successful top 11 football manager game. That's one of the top grossing games on all platforms. And they made a really, really big success. And I think that those three companies started everything. We started at the same time. So that's the first part. Now the second part is that this year and by the end of last year, something like that, a lot of smaller companies started to grow. They didn't make any success yet, but they are trying to do something. A lot of them are from people who get out of Nordeus. There are a few companies that are formed by our ex-employees, or we are trying to help them all to get successful. And I think that one of the players that came now to Belgrade is also Ubisoft, who is now, I don't know, for a few years, or something like that. They are trying to build a company there. So we hope that these new studios will make some games that will be profitable. We still don't have any hit game except Nordeus, who is the biggest in free-to-play market. So we are trying to find something and to make some to make some games that will be more successful.
I already talked a lot about the Polish market.
For those of you that were not
summary, just to summarize, more than 300 companies, mainly SMEs, so small companies, a very strong indie community with high quality games being produced every year. But the industry is dominated mostly by two big players, which are Polish companies. Those are Techland with Dying Light and CD Projekt Red with the top title The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. And we are actually one of the... we don't have a Ubisoft development office yet, at least. I don't know why. We have been, as a nation, omitted by many big players in regards to development. Although
why would you think that is?
I don't know. We had an episode with Epic. There was Epic Poland, and actually, I think there is actually right now, but it's a very rather small outsourcing studio. Yeah, it's about the weather, definitely. Like, it's warmer here, so why not Bucharest? Yeah, and we are doing mostly exports, exporting our games to the West, and right now also to China. Doing various games from hidden object puzzle adventures to AAA RPGs. So a very good variety. A lot of Polish game studios, not a lot of foreign investment yet.
So first of all, thank you for the invitation. We are very happy to be here. Thanks for the initiative. So I'm Sebastien Delen, in charge of Ubisoft in Eastern Europe. Yes, we are here since a while, like 25 years ago. Started a nice story in Bucharest, but today we are in Bucharest, we are in Sofia, we are in Kiev and Belgrade. Speaking a little bit about this 25 years, it started very small, but I think what is similar 25 years ago versus now, it's about passion, passion for our industry and video games, and talents. And this is key, and this is why today we are about 6,000 in Eastern Europe, doing great games for some big studio, but also for great smaller indie, which are promoting our industry, and better we are all together, bigger are the opportunities. So we are all growing. We are all very optimistic about the future, because the industry is promising. There is hope that the business will continue to grow. but still it's extremely dynamic, and business model are changing very quickly, and in 2-3 years it's enough to have a different model. So we have to rely on our capacity to adapt to that, and we have to rely on initiative like this one, so we can share, understand better all together that industry, and adapt, because we are somehow in competition with other great teams all over the globe, and if we are willing to continue to grow, we have to have companies which invest, we have to have talented people, we have to have association which help us to share more, and like this I think we are very well positioned to deliver great games in the future. So today we are about 2,000 employees in Eastern Europe. We are also considering a new location where talented people will enjoy developing games together for us.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you all for giving us a small snapshot of your industries. Going a bit further to what Sebastien was saying, I would like to have a short discussion in terms of what do you think are the advantages that us as a region possess in terms of people recruitment, in terms of the ideas that we have, the culture that can spark great games, and also if we talk about advantages, also let's talk a bit about the shortages that are still there that we can improve in order to have our region more successful on a global scale. Thank you, Cvetan, for breaking the ice.
Everyone is so shy. So, yeah, we have more sunny days in Bulgaria than any other countries. So this is our more sunny days. Yeah, so this is our advantage, as they say that the weather in Poland was, yeah, it's extremely not, yeah, extreme weather, let's say like that. Yeah, the good thing is that Bulgaria, since 2007, is part of European Union. This is a game changer for us and for the whole new digital industry. All the regulations and European laws and all the products that are produced there is made in EU. A lot of companies feel safe because Bulgaria is part of NATO and EU. So they start
investment and starting up.
Yes, they start. Also, one key point about Bulgaria is that helps us a lot, and the whole business and investors that came, is that our currency is pegged to euro. So we have something around 2 level is equal 1 euro, and this is set like this for the last 17 years. So this is really important because, yeah, we also have operations on the Polish market, and we know how also in Russia, and we know how it could be like up and down, and this could affect your operations. So this is really helping us in Sofia. Also, we have something that our government did cleverly. One of the few things is 10% corporate tax. So it's also great. A lot of new, young, talented people, but they actually came not from the universities. They came from the private schools. Top of the companies in Sofia, this is Imperia Online, my company, Access Software, and Telerik actually support created with their own funds schools, and now we produce I don't know about the other schools numbers, but our school produced 20% of the people that join the industry every year.
That's actually a very soft spot of our regional industry education, and actually the lack of it.
Yeah, actually a lot of companies come to Bulgaria, open their outsourcing offices there, and there was a huge lack for new talents. So this was something absolutely natural, and people who has money invested in this to to create such schools.
Okay.
So this is the benefits. The
So if
major
you
one.
have the money, to build up a school, as you say, then how do you actually do it in terms of what type of lecturers you have, what type of teachers you
okay,
have,
so
and
I
so on?
wanna
Because
be-
that's the
yeah.
most interesting
I
thing.
want to be really short about it. 5 years ago, we invested a few millions, if you calculate the whole amount of money that we put it. In school, every year, more than 2,000 people, no, 2,000 people want to sign up for every course. We pick the best 200 and 100 graduated the school. So it's like a survivor. 6 months, super intensive training for 6 hours per day. They're focused to do only this. We pick our major language that they learn there, actually first by our needs, then on the market needs. Because now we have 70 other companies that support us, and if someone likes a candidate, he can pay for his tuition, and then the candidate goes to work for them. So Imperia Online can keep the best and brightest talented. We have the first pick, but the other 100 people per course actually goes to the other companies, and 94% of them are starting their job. So this is really effective program. Yeah, and we made it twice per year, so we can generate 200 people per year, actually.
I would like to confirm that school and training, it's key for the future. If
Exactly.
we identify the profile that we will need in the next years, let's say in 3 to 5 years, we will need more online programmer. We have to anticipate and find ways to recruit this future online programmer. And it's up to us to identify this needs, to promote this career opportunity, and eventually to invest to be able to give the opportunity to the younger student to learn, and then join us to contribute and release our future success. So it's key to have a good understanding on the industry, where we are going, and what are the profiles that we'll need in the next 3 to 5 years. And any initiative is a benefit for all the industry. It's competitive. We are delivering games, but there is hundreds of other companies trying to do the same all over the globe. And if we are not able to find these talents which will join us, we'll have difficulties to deliver and to keep growing. So it's extremely competitive, and we have to work together to put in place the structure which will help us to find our future talents for the next years.
I think you can elaborate a bit more, taking into account that you are from the side of a big multinational company setting up shop here and in the neighboring countries. So you can elaborate a bit more on the things that could be improved in order for other companies like you, or either you to enlarge and have bigger studios here, or for other companies like you to come here in the region. So in terms of shortages, in terms of things that can be improved.
I think it's really a common effort. We have to, as a company, to have vision and plan for the future, but we will not succeed alone. We have to rely on, first of all, students, talents, which we will need to have ambition to join us. Then it's about the state, which will provide stability and eventually support, because we are investing a lot, so we are putting a lot of money, we are taking risk, but we need at one point some support, like in Canada or like in Asia. There is a lot of initiative from some states which understand that that industry is booming and there is huge opportunity. But it's a fight, and if you are willing to win that battle, we have to play it all together. So I feel that at least for for Romania, things are changing, and the state start to understand that opportunity, and we are in a close discussion. And the fact that we have also an association which will help us to sit all together around the table will help us to negotiate and win that battle in the future. So the state, the students, the companies, it's key that we are all together trying to find where to go and how to win this battle in the future.
Agreed, and I think before I go to Tanja and Adrian, because I want to hear a bit about non-EU countries and how the ecosystem is there, and if this actually affects your local industries. But before I do that, to go on in terms of the public-private partnerships, I think Poland has a lot to say in this respect. And maybe, Stan, you can tell us a bit more about how important it is to have a good collaboration with the public authorities and how helpful this was for the growth of your industry.
What happened in our case is that actually we had to build a brand and recognition for the games first, and then actually moved forward with all the people employed in the public sector that wanted to actually build on that opportunity, because previously they didn't recognize that as an option. They didn't recognize us as a serious business, so we had to prove ourselves before. But then it got much easier. So right now, like if we are able to provide them with appropriate proof of us being able to leverage that advantage. So for example, I'm talking in particular in some analysis, in some feasibility studies of showing how with some support from the state, how we can leverage that and how we can actually turn that into even a bigger success, and how success stories like Finland actually came to life. So what we are doing is a simple tactic of preparation, just like provide analysis of what could happen if we would have this and this support, and then pitching it to the government, to the public authorities with the idea, and then they agreed in 2 cases with us, with the R&D program and with small seed funding, let's call it seed public funding for prototyping indie developers. They just agreed with the argumentation, and then they approved.
So an impact study is something that we are, as a Romanian local industry, we're trying to develop at the moment. I heard in your talk, Stan, that in 2014 you had around 100 million euros. Was it euros or dollars?
Yeah, euros.
Okay, euros in terms of revenue, and then obviously The Witcher 3 and
yeah, but what
when
most
was
people
what I wanted to ask is, at what level did they think it was worth it? Was it in 2014 when you had 100, or was it when you had 300?
Well, it started earlier, but it was very limited to many regards, and most people omit the fact that actually the companies like, for example, CD Projekt, were using public funding almost from the very beginning. So it wasn't like that we actually like succeeded, and why do you need public funding because you're succeeding without it. It's just like we were using it for like quite some time, for many years, and it's actually paid off at some point. And so it works like a leverage. So previously it was like €1 million, for example, to make an exhibition, to make a show at like to show the game at, for example, PAX or E3 or whatever. And then when you put more money in it, we could actually benefit even
more out of it.
Yeah.
So in 2016, for example, do you have figures in terms of how much public support you had?
Well, the biggest program is for the R&D, and its budget is for 25 million euros per year. and
For the gaming industry alone.
for the gaming industry alone. But what is important on that note is that at the same time we have paid as an industry, and I'm talking only about the stock exchange companies. We've paid about 20 million euros in taxes. So having said that, like what we think that will happen is that using all those investment money, we will create companies that will pay even more taxes later on, and it will actually be some sort of an investment that the country is doing.
Yes, thank you for the success story. It's good for our public authorities to know that as well.
Well, in CIS countries, the best help from the governments is not to intrude and not to pay any attention to our industry. To be
Okay,
honest.
choose your battles, indeed.
Yeah. But if to speak about Eastern Europe as a region, we've been in the focus of Western companies for years, and it's developed a very strong potential and even the force of artists, developers, game designers, and so on and so forth. And what I notice now is that Asia pays so much attention to us. And maybe once in a month I receive a message saying that, hi, we are a Chinese or an South Korean company eager to set up an office in Ukraine or somewhere in CIS, and we've already set up such an office for them, and they're going to come here further on and further on because first, we know the Western market and they want to join the Western market, and second, we're much cheaper than the Western companies.
So you're close enough, but you're also far away enough for for what they need.
Yeah, we are on the borderline between East and West, and I think that it is a great opportunity at this point, and it is a great risk at the same time.
How much is the average salary in Ukraine?
In game development.
I don't know numbers in my country, so let's compare the numbers that I have.
It's something like 200 euros in non-IT industries, like as a whole. If to speak about gaming, it's something like 1,500 to 600. It on all the levels of seniority. And if to speak about the senior developers, it's starting with 2,000 up to $3,000 and $4,000, but it's a rare thing. But even in Ukraine, you get more than in Russia, for example. But when you set up an office in Ukraine, you can have some legal tricks that let you pay much less taxes. And you have your employees not like employed to you as a company, but as contractors, private entrepreneurs, and you only pay 5% of taxes, and that's it. So, yeah, and something like $20 or $30 a month for their like social security, insurance, and so on. That's why count $2,000 and 5%, and that's it. That is why Ukraine is really very perspective until we have this trick in the legal. It is legal, yeah. Besides, we have very, very strong engineering potential. It still remains technical universities. For example, there is a city in Ukraine, Kharkiv, and it has more than 25,000 students, technical students, a year. Yeah, that is why it's huge. It's huge, but it is hard to invite them to game development because game developers receive less money than the IT and outsourcing. Yeah, yeah. But if they really want to make games, they do
Also
come.
about passion.
Yeah,
I guess
they're
you
passionate.
attract them with that.
And I am sure that everyone in game development, starting with an accountant, HR, and so on, needs to be passionate about games and play games. Yeah, and that is why Ukraine, though it has this war conflict on the east, it is very perspective for, yeah, it's very attractive, yeah.
Just would like to add one point about average cost and salaries. When we are growing, when we are deciding to invest in Romania or later in Sofia or in Ukraine, it's not about the cost. P&L is important, but what will make a game to sell? It's talents. And if The Witcher 3 is a huge success and we are all benefiting from that image in the region, it's not because it costs 10% less or more. It's because they found talents and they deliver a great game. So I think it's really important. If 25 years ago salaries were at $100 in Bucharest and today it's 20 times more, and we are 6,000, it's because we had talents which deliver a great game. And this is what we have to rely on for the future, because I'm happy to see that evolution in terms of salary. I'm happy to see people with almost Western Europe salary as soon as we are better and we are able to deliver the best game. And we should not too much consider this very small savings, which are short-term computation. Whatever, we will always find cheaper developer in India, in China, etc. It's just about our capacity to beat the best and not to look the cheaper one on the weaker profile, which will deliver good games, but will not be the games which will become extremely profitable.
In Serbia, in Serbia we have a lot of talented people, and because of the lower salaries, I think 1 week ago there was a report where Serbia has the lowest salary, official salary in Europe, so with a very high unemployment rate, and a lot of people are trying to get into game industry because they like that. And we don't have university, we don't have anything. They are trying to learn by themselves, so we are trying to help them out to organize some talks and everything. And because of that, we have people who are very, very good, who are trying to help us develop our companies, and they are very loyal. And we don't have too many exchanges between companies with workforce. So we are not competitive on that part, although we don't have enough people. But they are not changing companies. They're very, very loyal to the company. And they are feeling successes and failures of the company. So that's one of the biggest thing, I think, in Serbia. People who are motivated. They also want to work for a lower salary because of the passion. We have IT outsourcing industry who is strong now, software. There are lots of talents from technical side, and they are trying to switch now to game development. The problem is we don't have, it's a young industry, and we don't have too many experienced people. We can develop our games, but we don't know how to publish, and that's why we need help in other parts for our games to have a huge success. And regarding the public sector, the companies are trying to hide from government because we have a lot of problems.
You're not into
they're not helping.
Collaboration, but
and the collaboration between the game development company in Serbia is great. That's also one of the good things, because there are only a few companies, and we have a great collaboration between. We share a lot of knowledge and information, so that's very good. And as I said, the problem is that we are not in European Union. Until now we didn't have PayPal. I think there are 4 or 5 countries in the world who didn't have PayPal. We were one of them. And we have PayPal, but you could not receive money. You can receive money, but it's not legal. Something like that. So there are a lot of problems. There was a company in Serbia who was doing software, and they wanted to work everything legally. And when they wanted to export the software, they printed a blank CD that sent to an address abroad, and they got the export invoice, something like that. So it's ridiculous. We don't have any laws with software.
So
with software, not only
talking about
games.
challenges.
Yeah, it's a lot of challenges. So basically, we try to do a lot of things differently, and that's one of the advantage because we could make a product that cost us that is cheaper, let's say, than other competitors, and that's how we can make successful studio with a game that's not successful. Let's say something like that. We can be on zero. We can be positive with a smaller number of sales. So that's basically the industry right now in Serbia. A lot of people are trying to make products that are not selling too many copies. You cannot do that abroad, but in Serbia it's enough for you to pay the costs of development. So we are still waiting
accumulating experience.
Yeah,
at this point
so we are accumulating experience. Yeah, and we are still waiting for someone to make something like you have like Witcher in CD Projekt in Poland, CD Projekt Red. So we are waiting for one company to have a successful, and all others will be better because of them. I think that we are not competitors there. We all try to make the best game we can. So that's why we need to collaborate and share the knowledge, everything that we can.
I agree with that. We're also waiting for Romanian IP to become successful, but until then, we pride ourselves with the big companies that are here that are producing here great AAA names.
So what about Romania? So you see, first time that I step on this stage, I was like, yeah, Bulgaria, we have the smallest game community. We are so back organized, and everything is, I don't want to say the word here, but then I met the guy from Serbia, and I started feeling more comfortable.
So now you want to hear about
you are better
Romania,
a lot.
so that you
So
feel,
let's hear about Romania. So you're somewhere between us on this side of, you know.
Well, in terms of total revenue, we have around 150 million at this point in 2016 in terms of revenue. We have 80 plus studios, including the big ones. We have some names of Romanian titles that have been quite successful outside. So from Move or Die to Door Kickers. Then we also have, of course,
About success, I would add we didn't do The Witcher, but we did Pod on Dreamcast 20 years ago almost. So I guess you all played Pod on Dreamcast. At least one, yes, one.
the people here, people in Romania, they should know, and in general, also the international community knows that people here are doing also Assassin's Creed, they're doing FIFA, they're doing Need for Speed, and so on.
Yeah, and you have Bandai Namco also.
Also Bandai Namco here for almost 10 years, I think.
So you gotta be sitting over there, like to the big guys.
No, I think, for example, what Stan was saying in terms of having a big name, a famous name that afterwards attracted and stimulated the industry to grow. I think for us it was the fault of the multinationals. So they were the ones that actually came here and they had the bet on this local industry, and because of them, our industry grows at this point. So this is our evolution story, let's say.
Yeah, I think that Ubisoft came to Belgrade is a good thing because it will we will have some people who are experienced with AAA titles. We didn't have any experience, so I think that's a good thing because they didn't took people from us. As I said, it's I think only a few people left other companies to join Ubisoft. They are training new people, so it's good. It's really great because the whole industry is going forward. With when you have some company like Ubisoft that open office in your city and in your country.
Exactly. It's huge. It's huge in terms of that.
Yes, I just would like to add that we have again to make that effort to work on this very challenging AAA, because if we are able to identify, attract, develop talents, we have also competitors which will headhunt our best talents. And we are used about this in Eastern Europe. We have people which are willing to leave the country. So it's up to us to deal and get this challenging mandate and this great AAA to be developed in Eastern Europe, so we can keep our talents and prove that Witcher 3 is a process which can be duplicated in all Eastern Europe.
Agreed. And I think, in a way, the gaming industry, as opposed to, let's say, software in general, it's quite lucky to have different, very cool ways of employment retention, because it also involves passion. It also involves gaming that you think are fun, and that you also the entire environment in the companies is fun and so on. So I think employment retention is something that we are happy about, let's say, right? Tanja, you must know more.
Well, for sure it depends, especially on the way the company hires, whether the company knows who it is
They hire.
Yeah, it is hiring, and how to retain them, because there are examples of companies donors with with very bad environment but quite decent products, where you can come and hunt there quite any specialist, because they have very, very bad atmosphere and culture, though they make games. That's why it all depends on the company.
Okay. And I guess one last question before we give it to the public, and before I let you say whatever else you wanted to point out in this panel. The moment you talked about your industries, it seemed that one of the advantages was always the fact that you have great technical people, and you were always competing with software and so on. But there's also game design, and obviously there's also art involving games. And as far as Romania goes, we have a shortage of artists. And I guess also in terms of art, this is one of the problems we have in terms of growing the industry. So what's going on in your countries, and how do you try or plan to solve this purely, well, not purely, but mostly creative part of the industry?
I will start. So
Yes.
I think it's clear for all of us, and even for some competitors which are in the US or all over the globe, which are coming here to find talents, that we have extremely good universities and extremely talented technical profile. So this made our success from the start. But today, indeed, there is some small competitors, not in our industry, but in IT, like Google, like any big name, Amazon, which are also relying on this profile. So we have to be extremely careful on how we keep our resources. So first of all, it's about to find appropriate mandate in terms of development for each of our teams to believe that they should stay in our industry. And then it's about to identify what are the needed profiles that we'll have in 3 years. And then, according to that, we will be able to work together with the state, and make sure that in 3 years we'll not be missing X or Y profile, and will not be fighting to recruit within each other, and then fail delivering great games all together. So let's deliver all together a lot of big AAA. But for that, we have to identify the needs. What are the profile we need in the next years to be able to succeed and to win?
Exactly.
My view on the artist case is that it is a bit easier in case of artists, that we do not need to compete as fiercely as for programmers with, for example, fintech companies in regards of salaries, for example. So what we do is that we attract people mostly because of the attractive projects, and if the project is interesting, then if the culture is in place and the organization is not like mobbing people all the time, then you usually get the employee you need. We've noticed a shortage in regards of animators, for example. It's a field that is very it's relatively new, and it's quite difficult to teach. At least we don't have a lot of universities that teach animation, so they usually do go with like online courses like Mentor or iAnimate or something like that, and then it works out. But and we also have our own training, which is called Promised Land, that we also promote like development in the artist space.
Yeah. Regarding artists in our country, I think there are a lot of good artists, and okay, there are always lack of employees, but we have enough artists who are working as freelancers, and the problem is to get them to work for the company, because they earn as freelancers in graphic design, and Serbia is one of the best countries, I think, on e-lens, I think on the third place by revenues, even though we have only 7 million people with graphical artists. So they are doing 2 or 3 days job that earns them money for the rest of the month. And the rest are doing what they like. So it's very hard to get them to work in the company on projects that are different. Also the salaries, we cannot pay them the salaries that they earn as freelancers. So basically it's the problem that we have with them. They don't want to work. So always, it's always trying to find a way to approach them, to find something that's that will be interesting for them. Also because of the, as I said, high unemployment rate, it's very normal to not do nothing, only to draw something that you like and not earn money. So you also have that kind of people who are really great. They are learning all the time, and they're learning for 5 years, not earning anything, and they are surviving somehow in Serbia. So that's the problem that we have. It's cheap to, they are probably living with parents. It's normal to live with parents until you have 40 years or something like that in Serbia. So basically, you don't need to get a job to survive.
Our problem is more technological. If you post a job offer for an artist, it has like a 200 CVs, and then people showed up and bringing their paintings on paper. Like there is almost no one that can draw on digital or can do a digital animation. This is because in the university where they graduated, they have no access to PCs and tablets and so on. And also it's too expensive to have a professional equipment at home. And they just come and show up with some stuff on paper or paintings, and it's really strange. It's really strange, and it's not a good sign. It's really hard to find decent artists, digital ones. Sometimes it's easier to start outsourcing art if you have a project that everything could be like described really strictly and could be formed as a task, and you just send it, pay, get back, that's it.
Well, CIS in terms of art is really rich for specialists. We have CG art courses at art universities and institutes and so on and so
Good
forth.
for you.
Yeah. The problem for those international companies who want to hire in CIS is that the majority of artists don't know English. And this is the major problem, because I know several of them who are just mad about, and they just dream of joining CD Projekt Red, and they're really good artists, but they don't know English, and for some reason
communicate to them exactly what they need to do.
And for some reason they don't learn English and only continue dreaming. Yeah, this is the problem. If to speak about other specializations, is in Ukraine we lack marketing officers and marketing specialists, because we are the hands of big companies, and we do not operate those and do not promote those products. But in terms of user acquisition and traffic, we are constantly growing.
Then thank you for this question. So to sum it all up, maybe you can say a few words and then also answer something that might help us do something together. So I received this question from the president of RGDA, from Cătălin Butnariu. He was interested to find out if there is any scope in the region to cooperate together for a better and more sustainable evolution. So if there would be anything that we could do together as a region to help our local communities grow. And if you answer that and conclude whatever you wanted to share with the audience, then we can go to questions.
Yeah, as a neighbor country, we have so many things to share. So I think it's easy. I came here. I've never been to Bucharest before, and I went to the city center yesterday. I've been to a party, and then I saw 2 of my ex-employees invited at the party. So I think that people now travel in the whole Europe. So the talented, they just choose the company that it fits themselves, and we will be like an open country, open world without boundaries. So it's going to be even more synergy between the studios and the projects. There is a lot of European programs that a lot of companies help each other. Like we were approached by a bunch of companies from Poland, and they wanted our help on projects that they already get funds from European Union and so on. So it's normal to be like that. It's a free travel for people. It's easy, and yeah, I think this is the future, to have a better cooperation. For me, the future, to say in one sentence, is it's really bright. But the people that not on this stage, but the people that is in the audience, have to start and push hard, like we did before. Now they have a better chances than us, because now there are VC investor, private funds, public funds, a lot of conferences, a lot of companies that can share their success, a lot of companies that they can go there and teach themselves, because Bulgaria since 2007 is going really crazy, like the whole industry. They're building tech parks, thousands of employees of the companies are there, and
A lot of potential.
yeah, it's a great potential, and all those companies, they come with their know-how. So now you can go and learn how to do it by yourself, and then you can do something as an entrepreneur.
From my side, it would be very helpful if more countries have their organized representations and join GDF, for example, so that we could not only like standardize the data that we are gathering, but also share experiences like we do right now. But there are still too few of us actually doing that. So more organizations within Europe and being active actually in sharing knowledge and know-how, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, I think also that collaboration between companies is the most important thing that we can do. We have a great collaboration with ex-Yugoslavian countries, because we were once the same country, but we don't have those the same relation with Bulgaria, Romania, and other countries. So conferences like this help to get in touch with the others, so that we can share that knowledge, not only on collaboration project, but the knowledge the information.
At the higher level, exactly.
The higher level. So that I think will help us a lot. We entered this business because of a company from Poland, Artifex Mundi. They told us about this genre that we were making, that niche that's that good, that has stable market, and because of them we entered the business and started making these games. So there are also other companies because of us that we told them what kind of games can they do. So that is one of the things that we can share, let's say.
I think that collaboration and the association role is key, because maybe today we are able to identify and try great artists, great designers or programmers. But finally, maybe to succeed and to make revenue and profit from a game, we'll need analyst of big data and monetization specialist. And maybe there is some people with that expertise which are willing to learn. So if we are not able to identify these needs together and plan to have this profile, we will do great game which will not sell in the future. So let's make sure that we we are on the top of what is coming next, and then I'm confident that we have the talents to succeed.
Lovely.
Yeah, I think that the big players need to help those game development schools, like art schools, like game design schools, establish something that would promote marketing and tell how great it is. And we need to invest into the ecosystem first. And I also invite you to discover Ukrainian game development market and join us at Casual Connect Kyiv in October. Yeah, our games gathering in December. Please come to us and find out what great people work in Ukraine.
Thank you, Tanja. So to summarize it all up, it's a region with full potential, with great potential, a lot of advantages, a lot of things that we can improve and do, so we can grow the industry even more and have it actually a sustainable growth. The key words are education and obviously community and collaboration and cooperation. Before I give the floor to any questions from the public, we have here a representative of EGDF. Yari, if you can have a question or two. EGDF is the European Game Federation, and Romania just joined this year. Yari has come here to find out more about our industry and about the industries in Eastern Europe, and maybe you have a question for our panelists.
Thank you so much, Andreea. Just a very quick question for the panelists. Eastern Europe is not only an increasingly important powerhouse of game development, it's also on a political level very influential in the Cultural Committee on the European Parliament, because most of the members of the Cultural Committee are actually coming from Eastern European countries. So when I go to meet these policymakers, what are the things I should know? Like, how do your local policymakers approach games industry? What kind of understanding of games industry they do have? And this is mostly for the members of the European Union countries' representatives. Thanks.
For me, what's missing is the recognition of putting, maybe not an equal mark, but putting games aside, for example, films and movies, so that we have many examples where films are treated differently because, I don't know, maybe because they're a bit older industry and they are on preferable conditions than games. For one of the examples is that Creative Europe has a program for film festivals, but not for game festivals. But that would be something that I would point out to be treated on at least equal terms.
Yari, I know you, man. You're a nice guy. Why you are doing this to us? Talking about politics and gaming and so on. Yeah, in my country, it's like Tanja said, in Eastern Europe, we just lay low. Like in Serbia as well, we don't want to have anything in common with politicians and so on. It's not our playground there. I know that there are a lot of initiatives on a cultural level, and yeah, the good thing is that they start looking at us as a culture phenomenon, something that could affect the young generation and so on. Like, it's not only dance and song festivals. Now they start arranging those type of esport tournaments and so on. Of course, how to say, the guys that work in the governments, you know, they're older than us, and there is like a gap between the generations, and it's not so easy. But I think you know, at least they look at us as something good. Back in the days, they look at us as something bad. because you know all the violence they came from video games, and we have to ban Counter-Strike and so on. Those were rhetorics for from the past 10 years. Now they think different. Now they know that there is mobile gaming, consoles, educational gaming, serious gaming, and so on. So I think it's changing, and I think also a lot of talented young people are joining the government, on the government side, working for them. So yeah, I think that helps a lot, yeah.
I think we have to structure ourselves. There is some lobby, and when we speak about the cinema, it's a very old industry, and they have very strong lobby, which helps them to get some benefit. Now we are a major industry as well. We are generating revenues, but we are also attracting a lot of people. So we are in type of workforce. So we have the power to negotiate, but we need to work all together and to have a structure to be able to do so and get part of the cake.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we won't have any time for questions because we went too much overboard. You can obviously find them in the next coffee break, and if you have any questions for them. Thank you.
Thank you.